For me, I was a traveling consultant, so I stopped traveling. Now I was just sitting at home with all this free time, and that's when I started my content creation journey. And I gave myself essentially 6 months to really build up my following. I started working on what is now Shelter Skin, and we've now been in business for 8 months, and it has been doing better than I ever thought it would. I had been building the business pretty publicly and transparently.
Hello, and welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. Every week, we interview some of the best e-commerce founders and dive deep into their key growth drivers, uncovering actionable insights that you can implement in your business. But before we jump into today's conversation, a quick thank you to our friends at Saral. Most brands get influencer marketing wrong. They think paying a creator for a single post will spark a sales spike. That simply doesn't work. Successful brands like Graza, Obvi, and Hexclad are forging genuine partnerships. And that's where Saral comes in. It's your go-to platform for partnering with the right influencers, tracking results, and managing everything in one place. Book a demo at getsaral.com/demo, mention us, and get an extended free trial exclusive for our listeners.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you for having me.
So, Catherine, you've had a wonderful journey so far. You started off in consulting, you were working with Deloitte, then you became a content creator, and now you're an entrepreneur. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey so far?
Yes, it is unconventional, to say the least. My entire life, I really loved beauty, but I didn't really foresee myself having a full-time job in it. I went to business school, went into management consulting, and that was kind of what I thought my path was going to look like. I think for everyone, COVID kind of had a big impact on a lot of people's careers. For me, I was a traveling consultant, so I stopped traveling. And then I kind of had all this free time because I went from being in a different city where, my entire day revolved around working and I really had nothing else to do but work, to now I was just sitting at home with all this free time. And that's when I started my content creation journey. And I was kind of doing both in tandem for a while, and then came to a point where I was making enough money from content creation that I thought that this would actually be like a feasible career, or not necessarily a feasible career, but income that could replace my full-time job. But it's always hard to leave a stable job, especially when I had such a kind of like business mindset and business background. Like and at the time too, influencers weren't as big as they are now, where it is so many people's careers. Like it didn't feel like a sure thing. I didn't know what this job was going to look like in, 5, even a couple years, let alone like what's it going to look like in 10 years. I still don't really know. But I really took the chance and was like, okay, I gave myself essentially 6 months to really build up my following. I got a manager, which immensely helped with the monetization process. And then I started really diving into the beauty niche. I've loved beauty my whole life, so I had an endless amount of content to talk about. And then as I was doing that, I was also going on kind of my own health journey with PCOS in tandem, and was learning a lot about the beauty products that I was promoting and talking about all of the time. And it was really starting to shift my focus about how I looked at certain things in the products that I was using every day in my home, on my body, also like the food I was eating, how I was kind of interacting with the world. And that journey kind of led me into this non-toxic beauty, clean beauty niche that I now sit in. And while I was kind of making these videos, I was DIYing body butter on the internet and sharing my recipe with my followers. And they said, oh my gosh, you should sell this. And I thought, no, maybe not this one. This one's not perfect yet, but it definitely put me on a path to thinking, okay, this is something that people that actually follow me and would be my market and my consumers really want. So I started working on what is now Shelter Skin. That was probably about 2.5 years ago. And it took me about 2 full years to get from that video to a product on a website that you could purchase. And we've now been in business for 8 months, and it has been doing better than I ever thought it would. And I'm so grateful for the community that encouraged me and still does encourage me, that I'm now able to have many SKUs in a space that is so mission driven and people feel very connected to.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, I mentioned that, you're a creator that's now an entrepreneur. So you've already got an audience to sell to, which I call as a very unfair advantage that a lot of content creators have, is that, you already have someone to sell to. Walk
Mhm.
me through the initial days of when you launched the brand. What did that look like? How did, you know, you did the audience find out that, okay, that recipe that you had posted about it is now a real business, and then they can go and buy the products?
Well, so I had been building the business pretty publicly and transparently since I had made that initial video and people were asking for it. Granted, sometimes they're slower than others. And as we got closer to the launch date, I had a lot more to talk about. But I, was tweaking formulas, making more recipe videos, was sharing my jar supplier debacles and, the names, and you guys like this branding. And I was really trying to bring them in every step of the way. When I was kind of starting my content creator journey, I knew that I wanted to have a product of some sort. I didn't know what it was going to be, so it was great that they told me. But in my mind, again, my mind thinks very business strategically. And so just because of the uncertainty of social media, and you really never know, like, am I going to want to be doing this in 30 years? Probably not, right? To me, having a product and being able to like monetize that in a way that didn't rely on other brands paying me to promote their products felt like a lot safer of an idea, and like a great way to kind of, create multiple income streams. So I had been pretty intentional about sharing every single thing that I was doing with my followers, and even like to the point where I was posting Instagram stories with polls, and I still do that today because one, everyone that follows me is like my direct consumer base. So it's like, this is what consultants dream of, is this amount of like instant market feedback where I can post a story to literally my exact customers and get feedback from thousands of them within like an hour. It's like an amazing tool, and I utilize it all the time. I feel like I've brought them every step of the way, and it kind of goes back to that like IKEA furniture psychological phenomenon where people feel like they like something more if they feel as though they've had a hand in building it. And I really want my followers, and I think they do feel this way, to feel as though they did have a hand in building it. And I'll have people come up to me all the time and be like, oh, I remember when you posted like the lip gloss jar and like you were deciding if it was white or if you wanted to put the logo on the back. And I said that you should do it white, and now it's white. And I just think that's so cool.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is you've kind of built the entire business in public, and, the audience felt they were already a part of this company. And when you launched, it's like the effort that they've put in as well in helping you come up with a brand name, the packaging and all of that is now come to light. So obviously they want to get, their hands on it. Could you, walk me through the journey of, when you were originally creating content as a pure content creator, and later when, the business idea came about, was there any change, or was it just the same thing? You're talking about your daily life.
Yeah. So I was and I'm an educational creator, I would say, now as it stands. I wasn't always like that. I'd say it kind of spanned between vlogs, product reviews, but it was very beauty focused nonetheless. As I was creating Shelter Skin, I think my content stayed pretty much the same, but then just had an additional pillar of like this business building. A lot of the times that I hear from creators is like, oh, I don't want to make a product because then I'll have fewer brands that want to work with me, which is true, like to an extent. And there's also, I can't do as many collabs because I don't want to be essentially promoting like a direct competitor of ours. Like, you don't want to cannibalize your own business. So I think that's kind of changed a little bit, but it's just kind of for me, because I never want to feel like I'm throwing it in people's faces every single day. So I'd still do make that educational content about stuff that has nothing to do with my business whatsoever. And a lot of times that is how people find me. Like my Shelter Skin videos aren't the videos that are like bringing people to my page, but then because I'm integrating it so naturally within my own content, and also it's obviously like in my bio and it's in my stories all the time because I'm so open about the things that we're doing and always getting that feedback, that it's just something that if you follow me, you'll naturally find. And I also think that feels a lot more authentic. And I've had a couple people say like, oh, you shouldn't work with any brands anymore. You should just be promoting your own products, which to me feels very boring because you would just get so tired of doing it. And I also think my followers would get so tired of seeing it. But I also love that I still have the ability to lift up other brands that I think are doing things really right, because there aren't a ton of brands out there that I think are so mission driven and, taking the time and care to sourcing ingredients and creating products that are really good for the consumer. So I like being able to do both.
I want you to give advice to business owners on how to think like a content creator, and to any content creator that's listening to this podcast and looking to start a business, what should they be thinking of?
Okay, so I'll start with the content creator side. I would say my number one advice for content creation, I think this really does ring true for my journey too, because I never was an overnight success in any way. I almost like forced myself to be successful in this space, but consistency is absolutely everything. Even when I was growing my TikTok, I was posting like 3 to 5 times a day. Now I post about once a day. But in the beginning, like that consistency is absolutely everything. I think finding your niche and having an opinion also tremendously helps. Like you need to give people a reason to follow you, unless you are just a crazy personality and people really want to follow you for that. But again, I'm an educational creator, so I offer people a lot of value within my videos. I think that when I'm looking at it from a brand perspective, because obviously I receive a ton of content briefs from brands that are like, here's a page of exactly what I want you to do to say in this video, etc. And then also making content yourself. So if you are a brand with a very small budget, say it's really just you and you don't have a marketing team or anyone that can help you and you can't pay influencers, I would say your best option is just creating like a BTS series style video. So when I started Shelter Skin, my kind of series about building the business was Operation Start a Non-Toxic and Successful Skincare Company. And I would make those videos on a regular cadence. And it was like a series that people were interested in and would go back to follow. So, depending on whatever product you're selling, if it's really you that's like doing all the legwork, this is a perfect way to implement that because people, one, love an underdog. They love seeing a journey. I think there's like a little itch that's scratched when people get to see behind the scenes and people just love that. So if I really didn't have any budget at all, I would just be super consistent on those types of videos. If you did have more of a budget, I would say, and say you wanted to have like a much more like professional looking presence. So like for Shelter Skin, our Instagram looks different than our TikTok because you kind of have to understand like what viewers on what platform. TikTok can be a lot more casual and Instagram is kind of where people go almost to like suss out a brand and like their reputability. So I want to make sure that we look reputable on Instagram, but then TikTok is where you can do a little more BTS and have a little more fun. So I would kind of start segmenting my content into that. So doing like more professional shoots, maybe more interesting campaigns, and then like leaving those for Instagram and then doing that more like raw, real, fun things that have a lot more potential of going viral over on TikTok. And that's kind of how I would approach it as a content creator and what we do at Shelter Skin from both sides. But I feel like there's a lot of misconception that if you just don't have a marketing team, social media is just really hard. But I see all the time brands that are just absolutely killing it with literally no marketing budget just because they're consistent with those series that are framed correctly to make people interested and invested in their own business building journey.
And could you talk a little bit more about how brands should kind of have their business pages as opposed to the founder having their own page, and what's the kind of content that they should be doing across these pages?
Yeah. So I think one of the things we're seeing right now in businesses and content is incredibly founder-led brands, and we see it a lot in skincare. So Shelter Skin is definitely a founder-led brand where people associate, like I'd say you're pretty hard-pressed to know that someone doesn't know that I exist within the realms of Shelter, right? Like usually people know of me and that's how they find the brand. You see that a lot with other skincare companies too. So say a cosmetic chemist founded a brand, she's generally the face of the brand, and say you're releasing a new product, you're telling them about why you personally formulated the product that way. I think it does a few things. One, it really humanizes a brand and makes people feel a lot more emotionally connected to it. Two, depending on how you're positioned within your niche, like I'm positioned as like a low tox living expert. So it's giving credibility to the brand because you have this person that exists in this niche as an expert that's now, discussing the formulations of this brand or whatever you're doing. Like say that you're not a skincare company, like say you make candy, right? Like, and your master candy maker has been making candy for 30 years. He could be the person that's leading the content for that candy brand. And I think it just really helps you solidify a deeper connection with your community. And we do it I'd say at least we have a cadence where like 1 to 2 times a week, we're doing a collaboration post between both my page and Shelter Skin's page. You can do that differently. Like if you're not already personally an influencer, say you're just an owner of a business, but you want to be a founder-led company, you don't have to do that. Like you don't have to create a personal page and then a brand page. You can just do it all within the brand page. But having those voice to camera moments or like talk to camera where you're kind of saying, this is who I am, this is why I'm qualified, and this is why we made this, I think really gives a ton of credibility to your brand. And it's one of our favorite tools to use.
And recently we see a lot of AI generated content. What's some of your take on that, where people are using tools like HeyGen, making clones of themselves? There are a lot of founders that I've spoken to, very shy, don't like coming on camera. For some of them, do you see this as an avenue of kind of building an audience, or is that something you'd say just be authentic, come on camera, however bad it sounds, it's better to sound authentic?
Yeah, we use AI for like product generation if we're trying to like come up with what a perfume bottle should look like. But like that's essentially it. Or like if we need something taken out of a photo. But I think that people's like bullshit meters is pretty high these days. And from just what I've seen online, people do not enjoy when you're utilizing AI to do a job that a human can be doing. I think that honestly, being bad at it is just another interesting angle for people to want to follow you. Like sometimes the most viral content is the most horribly produced content you've ever seen. Like, and I think that's true for us too. And we see it where like some of our overly produced content is just kind of like another piece of content on our page. It's fine. But then like those really raw moments, those like BTS moments that aren't as polished do really well because that's what people really connect with. So I think that AI is great and useful in certain situations, but I don't think that people are going to want to buy from a brand where it's just an AI person selling them. Cause like you can tell, like, yeah, they're getting like a lot better, but like, I don't know. I'll see pages where I'll like scroll through and I'm like, why is every photo generated by AI on this page? Like, I'm not going to buy a product where I don't think that someone is like backing it. And that's the whole thing about a founder-led brand too, is if you really do go up there and say like, this is me, this is my brand, it gives a lot more credibility than just kind of like the whole thing being AI, in my opinion.
Coming back to Shelter 6, so far, you've obviously scaled the brand with your own audience, but it will reach a stage where, you kind of exhaust your audience. At that point, what do you do? Like, what are the next, steps for you to kind of expand your audience? Do you plan on focusing on building your own audience and then channeling that into the business? Or do you, start spending on paid ads and other creators and things like that to expand the audience?
Yeah. So I kind of came to this point, like I'd say about 3 weeks after we launched Shelter Skin, where I was like, okay, I think everyone that follows me has bought it if they wanted to. And now we have to think about, okay, how do we get new customers? And I do this in both ways. I utilize my own platform significantly. Obviously, if I grow, then Shelter grows. And like, we understand that here. So there's a lot of opportunity that like you say, it's like an unfair advantage where I can do something like a podcast like we're doing right now, where people want to have me on just because of who I am. And then I also get to talk about Shelter Skin. So you're really killing two birds with one stone. Not every brand is going to have that luxury, but I do focus a lot on building my brand too. One of the most beneficial things that I did with Shelter Skin was getting someone to come and do our marketing full time. And like they're thinking about Shelter Skin full time so that I can think about my job full time, because I know that if I only have 50% to give to both, neither are going to succeed. So I definitely do focus on myself. Also, I also have the luxury of having a lot of friends that are influencers. So while we don't really have, and especially in the beginning, really didn't have a budget to throw into influencer marketing. Obviously, I understand the power of influencer marketing as an influencer, but what I was able to do was gift it to a lot of my influencer friends, and then they shared it. In the beginning, we really could see, like, if we had a lot of orders that day, we could trace it back to one specific post. Another thing that we do that I think is super beneficial is finding other brands that align within our niche. So I'd say like a health conscious, like women targeted brand. and we've been doing sample swaps with them. So we just did one with Juno. They make amazing herbal supplements. I really love them as a content creator. I've worked with them a lot. And what we did was we sent them 500 samples of our body butter. They sent us 500 samples of their like sleep gummies. We put theirs in orders for a week and they did the same. And that's amazing because we're essentially getting our product in front of, 500 new customers that are our target market because we're such similar brands. I just did the same thing with my friend who makes amazing non-toxic activewear. The brand is called Lair, and she doesn't really have a sample to give us, but we just gave her a bunch of samples. So every order got a sample of our body butter. And I think that is just such an amazing way to have like a very mutually beneficial customer acquisition experience. So we've been utilizing that a lot. I mentioned before, we haven't done any paid ads yet, which is definitely something that we want to start utilizing this year, that we're super excited about. But we also didn't want to, well, first in the beginning, we didn't have anyone that knew how to run meta ads. I do think you kind of need to be a little bit of a specialist to get it right. So we didn't have a budget to hire someone specifically to do that, or even an agency. And we also didn't want to come to the spot where we felt like we were growing too fast too soon, because everything that we make in-house, and we're completely vertically integrated with our supply chain. And we don't have the capability to go viral overnight and sell, 50,000 body butters. Everything is very slow beauty here. And we wanted to make sure that as we were growing conservatively, we were also kind of fortifying our manufacturing process and our supply chain along the way. And I think that's been really beneficial for us. So now we're at a place where we have all of our suppliers in place. We have larger manufacturing equipment that we're buying. And I think doing it the way we did really allowed us to get there without being in a moment where we were like, oh no, we are completely sold out and we're sold out for months. Like, we don't know what to do. In the beginning, we definitely had those sold out moments, but we've been able to really slowly and strongly fortify our manufacturing process to get to where we are now.
When I say, that being a content creator is an unfair advantage, and, that's something I think you'll actually realize when you even get into meta ads. If you look at the entire shift of how Meta as a platform has transformed over the last couple of years, earlier was about, okay, you have the right targeting and, things like that. You're going to crush it on meta ads. But now the platform is about content, right? And if you don't understand content, your ads aren't going to perform. And that's the next advantage that being a creator unlocks for you. And I think most founders don't realize this, that performance doesn't come from targeting or media buyers. It comes from content. Like, if you don't understand what kind of content you need to be posting to convert, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that, and something that I find very interesting now is the way that I really need to think about the structure of my videos, and how you have to give them just enough to keep them interested so they stay past the 3 seconds, but not too much that, they're just going to skip your video, or that you're like giving it all away. And I think about the structure of storytelling a lot when I'm creating my videos, especially because they're so information based, and like sometimes that can be boring. Maybe you don't care about the study I'm talking about. Maybe you just wanted the information fast. And so I think that story structure is something that was really ingrained in me when I was making like presentations and decks at Deloitte, or when I was in business school working on case competitions, and how you want to kind of structure your story. And you have to think about that with every single video that you make. And if you do think about that and like literally storyboard every video you're going to make, your content will perform a lot better.
Yeah. And, as the meta ads and content on Instagram is kind of becoming very similar, right? And, the best performing ads are the ones that feel the most native to the platform. Another advantage that, again, being a content creator and having an audience gives you is that you get to test those ads before actually spending any money of them. Because I've actually spoken to a couple of founders who've said that some of their best ads have actually come from organic content that's been posted on, social media, and, something that's gone viral. It's just something that they pick up and boost, and it's generating a lot of sale for them. But again, founders that don't spend enough time, money, and effort behind building that organic presence, they don't understand the value of this.
Yeah. I mean, so 2 things I would say about that. One is, if you are a very small business and you don't have like a lot of content, like just throw that content on your main page and see what does well, because you'll never know. And it's like, if I knew how to make a viral video every time, I would have a viral video every time, you know? No one knows what to do. The algorithm is always a mystery. What another thing that you can do within Meta, which I actually really love, is something called trial reels. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they essentially allow you to post a video without it going on your main page, and it only gets sent to non-followers. So if you're a business, you can think of, and you say you don't have any money to do Meta ads, right? If you're a business, you can completely treat trial reels as ads. Like, you can just throw out a trial reel a day, and it's only getting sent to people that don't follow you. So you're guaranteed reach outside of, you know, your current platform. And that can show you very quickly, like, is this a good video or is it not? And generally, like, if a video is a really good video, it will do well on all platforms. You know, yes, it'll like vary, but generally it'll do well. And you can kind of see the same thing with the trial reel. Like, if I have reposted my viral videos on trial reels, those videos will do better than other ones that haven't done as well. So it is a really awesome tool that you can use for as long as they're going to like keep letting us do it. I don't know when they're planning on taking it away, because it honestly doesn't make any sense. But I think it's really cool. And if you use it correctly as a business, I think it can be really valuable.
You know, we're also reaching the stage where, you know, there's obviously a lot of content that's getting flooded onto, you know, platforms like TikTok, on Instagram. You know, obviously there are a lot of people that are trying to kind of break out and, you know, make it as content creators. There are also a lot of brands that are posting, you know, today where, you know, people's attention is, you know, somewhat like gold. What does a brand or what does even a creator do to stand out and to get attention?
So I think if you can, I would say, one, show up like as authentically as possible, and two, make a good story. If you are just worried that your content looks the same as everyone else's, it's because it probably does. But kind of what I was talking about making those branded series, like, branded series are so powerful because it makes your videos recognizable. It creates a storyline for you already, and it gives people a reason to want to come back and look at your profiles. Right now, for myself, for my own page, I'm doing a series called Non-Toxic by New Year's, and I'm going to each room in my house and telling you the non-toxic swaps that I made in that room that were the most impactful for me. And that is a great example of like a branded series that you can do within your niche. You can tailor that to your business. I've seen some guy named Bert that's like building a house, and his videos are so low quality. He literally just starts it by saying, "I'm Bert and I'm building a house." And then he builds his house, right? But he got like, I think he has 1 million followers and he only had like 20 posts. And like, that is crazy. That rarely happens. Like, what an anomaly. Like, very lucky, right? But that kind of shows you the difference between a really polished content, which is kind of the content that I make, where it's really well branded. There's captions, there's sounds, there's exciting production, blah, blah, blah. Or you could just do it as low budget as possible. Literally doesn't matter. And you still have the potential to reach, you know, millions of people. I think it's just like creating that story for yourself, because no one's, you know, going to tell you your own story, but you need to tell the customer, like, why should I be invested in your company? But I think creating that narrative around your brand for yourself is like such an amazing tool. I think a lot of brands or a lot of people think that they need to be going viral all the time, or that they need to do like really outrageous things to go mega viral, but that's like not a sustainable marketing plan, right? But if you can create those stories in those series and something repeatable that people know you for, and make yourself recognizable, I think that would go a really long way at any size of a company.
Could you break down the journey a little bit, you know, for a person who's, let's say, just starting out? What do you need to get in place to, let's say, get to 10,000 people? Then what is the next step of getting from, say, 10,000 to 100,000? And then what do you need to do to go from 100,000 to 1 million?
Do you mean from a content creator standpoint?
Yeah.
Like followers?
Yeah.
Gosh. I mean, I guess if I had the answer to that, I would have 1 million followers, right? But I think at its core, the way, like, if you were saying, Catherine, how, like, I want you to start making videos on a brand new account, how are you going to reach 10,000 followers in a month?
Yep.
What I would do is pick a niche, have a strong opinion in it, and create a series. And I would do that every single day. Like, say, day 1 of 30 of wearing only natural fiber clothing. Then you could be like a non-toxic clothing niche, or like day day 1 of 30 of like trying to start my non-toxic skincare business and like just continuously make that video every single day. Like you don't need a bunch of fresh ideas. You can literally just do the same thing over and over and over again. That's what I would do personally. And then as you kind of start doing those things and garnering those followers, you'll start getting comments and people will start asking you questions. And then you can kind of let those comments and those questions and those DMs lead you down the path of like, maybe I'm talking about clothing, maybe I'm talking about my, building my skincare brand, but they also have questions about this other thing, or like maybe they want to know what makeup I'm wearing. Maybe they want to know how I do my hair. And, I think they'll kind of giving you ideas for new pillars that you can start incorporating into your content. And that's what I would do, at least if I wanted to gain followers fast on a brand new page.
Got it. And now, coming back to, this was obviously a question that I had asked, earlier as well. Let's say some of the content creators that are, listening to this call, already have an audience. What are the next steps for them to, starting a business and monetizing?
Yeah. So if I was a content creator and I didn't, already know what I was going to do, I would say 1, choose a thing that makes sense. Choose a thing that's within your niche or say you're like a personal brand, choose something that really makes sense for your brand. Say you do your hair with hair rollers every day, make a hair roller, but also find something that's like different and innovative and differentiated about that one thing. So maybe this is the best hair roller in the entire world. Maybe it's a biodegradable hair roller. You can do anything, but you want it to make sense for you, because at the end of the day, you have to think about the fact that you're going to have to now shift your content to promoting that one thing, fit within your content. Then it's not going to be easy for you to make content about. I feel like I kind of experienced that myself because my business before Shelter Skin, I had started a hat company, like a trucker hat company that was Austin centric, like all the hats said Austin on it. This was about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and I started it with a friend. It was just like a fun little thing. But starting that business, was like one of the best things I ever did because it really helped me realize how hard it is to run and start a business and all of the little things that you need to know. So it was so beneficial for me going into Shelter Skin. But as I kind of have grown as a creator and a person, hats aren't the most intrinsic thing to me. I'm not wearing a hat every day. Like I rarely wear hats because it's going to mess up my hair, right? So that isn't a lasting business for me. It's not a business that I am carrying on for years because it just didn't make sense. So you want to find something that makes a lot of sense for you. And again, like how I found Shelter Skin was like my followers literally told me that's something that they wanted. And I think that if you're kind of niche down like that and you're talking about things on your channel, those ideas will kind of come from your followers. You just kind of have to listen to them. So if I had then figured out what I was going to do, and depending on what you're doing, so if you're doing like CPG, you need a name, you need branding. I did professionally get my branding done, which was probably the best money I ever spent because I do all of my packaging myself. I create all of my packaging. I did my website because that was the cheapest way to do it. It would have been egregiously expensive to pay someone to do all of my packaging and my branding and sourcing all of my packaging and all that jazz. But I was really trying to do it as inexpensively as possible in the beginning. And I also just thought I could, but I did pay to have that branding done. So they gave me my logo, my brand mark, and essentially my color palette. And that is something that I truly believe is like definitely worth it. And yes, AI is so much better now that you could probably do it with like Nano Banana if you really wanted to at this point. But it was so beneficial for me. And I referenced that color palette, that logo, the fonts, within everything that I create for Shelter Skin. And it really helps create a solidified brand identity for you. And then the next thing I would do is like even this entire process. So every single thing that you do in terms of like sourcing packaging, getting samples, trying formulas, or like maybe you're starting a drink company, like trying samples of whatever drink you're doing, or like even in the beginning asking like what flavors do you like film everything. Film absolutely everything. Make everything an interactive video. Like if I was going to make a deodorant, what scent would you want? Like as small to like as big of decisions as possible, and just like share that as much as possible on a very regular cadence, because you always want to keep people interested. So I would say like if you're a normal creator and you're making normal videos, like try and do at least 1 video or 2 videos a week, incorporating your business and the one that you're building in some respect. And then what I would do once I had launched, or like before I had launched, is essentially finding other creators within your niche that your brand is going to sit in and you think would be really great collaborators with your brand, and follow them, start commenting on their stuff, like establish some sort of relationship. So when you get to the point of launching the brand and maybe you don't have the money to pay them, but they've seen your stuff and maybe they're interested in it and they would want to try it just for free. So that's kind of my three-pronged approach that I would do if I was going to start, if I had plans to start a brand as a content creator.
My next question for you is, given you're a business owner, you're a content creator as well, you understand both sides of it. A founder listening to this podcast, can you give them some advice on what's the best possible, way to, what's the best way to get, their influencer campaigns to perform well? Like, you obviously understand the business sides of it. You understand the creator side of it. So what's the best approach any brand should take in 25, 26 on, to get a great performance in their influencer campaigns?
Yeah. So I would say it totally depends on, what category your product falls into. I obviously speak from a very 18 to 44 women skincare niche type. So, that's kind of always what's on my mind when I'm thinking about it. But for me as a brand, and this is kind of going to be our next investment, is like meeting the influencers where they're at. A lot of influencers, or most influencers, I would say at this point that I know, are linking on ShopMy. And ShopMy, although their platform fees are pretty expensive monthly, it allows you to interact with the influencers in like a much more personal way. Like I get DMs in my Instagram requests all day long and I rarely open them unless it's like a brand that I recognize. So that's like a really great way to get your product in front of an influencer that you think fits with the brand. And because you can send opportunities, you can send lookbooks. So if you're on something like Impact or like Magic Links or like another affiliate platform, I would say consider moving to ShopMy because it is genuinely just so much better to work with as an influencer. And also the analytics and the access that it provides you as a brand is so much better. And then the second thing that I would say is allowing the influencer to create the content that makes the most sense for them. Worst performing content that I make in terms of collaborations are when brands send me the exact thing that they want. I think you need to allow the creator to do the thing that the creator does best, which is make content. And if you're giving them like a very rigid script, and this is something that I personally push back on all the time with brands where like I'll send them a script, they'll send me back a new script and I'm like, you just put that into ChatGPT and it's horrible. I would never say that. It would feel very unnatural because I also think like one thing that AI doesn't do super well is sound like a real person when it's writing things like a script. Like the scripts that they write are atrocious. And I as a creator can always tell when brands are using that to write their concept briefs, which is fine. Like you can do that. I totally get it. But I think you need to allow the creator to know, because like that's why you're hiring them. Is like they know their audience, they built their audience, they talk in a certain way, they talk about products in a certain way, and allowing them to do that. I feel like our best performing, and again, like we haven't paid any influencers, but the way that people incorporate it into their content organically are the things that really perform the best. So instead of doing like a full video that feels like an ad, because I feel like people really know when something is or is not an ad. Kind of the same thing with like AI. People can just like suss it out. They're like, that's an ad, I scroll, who cares, right? But if you allow them to really do their thing and make it feel natural for them, that ad is just going to perform so much better.
Got it. And coming back to Shelter Skin, what are the plans for 2026?
We started with one SKU and I think now we have about 8, and we just had our, weekly exec meeting. We are planning on launching almost a product a month at this point, which is crazy. We have some of them ready, some of them not. I'm super excited about a couple things that I can share that I have shared already. I share most things because, as I said, I'm like always asking for opinions. So there's not a lot of like surprise over at Shelter Skin, but it's that's the loss that we're okay with. But we're doing our core collection, our body range is the vanilla and the body butter and the body oil. We're doing that in a new scent that I'm really excited about. So if you're not a vanilla lover, we're gonna have it in a scent called Solar. So it is orange and jasmine, which is really exciting. Sorry, we're also doing a perfume. We are going to make 100% natural, essential oils only perfume that's going to have a vanilla base, so it should complement our vanilla line quite well. And I'm so excited about this because perfume was one of the saddest things that I ever stopped using. And there's about one brand on the market right now that I genuinely think is truly clean, clean, clean. Because even most like clean brands or any clean perfume brand at Sephora, they're still not even disclosing their fragrances. They're using mostly synthetics. It's just they're saying those synthetics are clean, but they're not telling you what they are. It's just there's no transparency whatsoever. And I'm so, so excited about that. And my followers are also very excited about that. Like every week they're like, is the perfume ready? And I was like, I just started it. It's not going to be ready. And we're working with a nose is what they're called, like a perfumer in New York City to develop that. So we're so excited about that one. And then we're going to be expanding on like the colors of our current collection. So like for our lip glosses, we're expanding that range. We're doing a couple of holiday exciting things, adding some more tools into our repertoire, which I've been working on for probably like 6 or 7 months. And now they're absolutely perfect. So we're super excited about that. And then in terms of like retail growth, we just launched at Sun Life Organics a couple months ago. So we're in all 20 of those stores, but I would love to get a kind of larger retail partner for Shelter Skin. A lot of our partners right now are online, and I just think it would be so cool to have it in a store that you could go grab, smell, touch. So that's kind of what we're thinking for 2026.
Awesome. And, any last piece of advice for any of the founders that are listening to this call?
My gosh. I would say, first of all, congratulations. You're doing great already, because it is so hard to start a business. And if content is something that you think is holding you back, like just post it, because it's really not going to be, it's like not that deep, right? Like you can grow with the highest amount of professionalism and the lowest amount of production quality. Like it is so imperative that you get your brand out there, and no matter how bad you think your video is, it doesn't matter.
Awesome. Catherine, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun.